and welcome to the Organ Show on the International Organ Day 2022 with Andrew Parmley
and Cheryl Enever and our two brand new friends, Hallett and Carl Jackson.
We are back with a brand new programme featuring friends old and new from across the planet.
But first, there's a flavour of what's to come after I've introduced you to the brilliant Richard Hills, who will improvise a medley based on some of the music we're going to hear later.
Pay attention, Richard, while we tell you the people and places we are visiting.
Yes, we will be visiting Hamburg and Schleswig-Holstein.
We shall be visiting RCO President-elect, the musician extraordinaire David Hill, and also the chairman of the RCO Foundation, Professor Christopher Wood.
And I shall be getting to know my new friend, Anna Hallett.
Can't wait. A highlight for me will be the interview with Thomas Hewitt-Jones, whose new anthem, In Our Service, was commissioned by the Royal School of Church Music for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
And in a moment, I shall be dashing to Freemasons Hall in Covent Garden to meet some fascinating people.
This edition of the Organ Show will also feature our friends in Uganda, in Canada, and indeed in Seattle, where later this year, the American Guild of Organists will be holding their national convention.
But now, over to you, Richard. Oh, thank you so much, Richard. That was absolutely fantastic. Did you all recognise the themes he used there?
Well, I'm sure I detected a note of the Ugandan national anthem now you mention it. I'm sure you did as well.
Carl, how are you going to get across London before the end of the show if you don't go?
Quite right. I thought he was never going to go. Bye, Carl. Bye, Carl.
Bye.
No, faster.
Quick.
Well, now let's go for a further word of welcome from the Royal College of Organists Chairman, the Lord Lisvane.
Hello, and welcome to the Royal College of Organists International Organ Day. My name is Robert Lisvane, and I have the great privilege of being the chairman of the college. I'm speaking to you from the beautiful Norman Church of St Michael and All Angels at Moccas in the peaceful Herefordshire countryside. Behind me is the lovely 1872 Walker instrument, which I've been playing for 40 years. It was the subject of a highly successful restoration by Nicholson's a year ago, and it is, for me, a reminder of the amazing heritage of instruments around the country. And how welcome it is when a parochial church council takes its stewardship so seriously. The RCO launched National Organ Day in 2020, and the idea quickly caught on among organists around the globe. Last year, we extended our brief and created a series of 7 programs, still available, entitled The Organ Show, culminating in International Organ Day. Our programs were viewed by over 135,000 people in 40 countries, and in total, we had over 2 million online engagements. We are delighted to present a brand new program this year in which we shall be honouring our well-established partnerships with the American Guild of Organists and the Royal Canadian College of Organists, amongst many other things. Our program is deliberately free to watch. The intention of our organ show is to give a flavour of the rich fabric of our beloved organ community and the many initiatives of promoting organ music that are carried out, often on a voluntary basis, across the globe. I'm very grateful to Father Alan Guile for again allowing us to use St Paul's Knightsbridge as our studio, and to our talented team behind the scenes, with Michael Koenig, our producer and director, and my fellow RCO trustee, Christopher Morris. I'm delighted that this year our presenters, Cheryl Enever and Andrew Parmley, are joined by rising star Anna Hallett and by Carl Jackson, the organist of Her Majesty's Chapel Royal, Hampton Court. So thank you for tuning in to the Organ Show, and happy International Organ Day.
So let's start the world tour. First stop, Hamburg, where we visit one of Germany's most precious historic organs, the Schnittke organ at St. Jacobi Church. And we continue the heritage of Schnittke with a visit to the Lutheran Diocese of Schleswig-Holstein to see how young people are becoming acquainted with organs and organ building.
The organ by Arp Schnittke at St. Jacobi Church in Hamburg is the largest example of a North German Baroque instrument in existence. With around 4,000 pipes, this organ is a cultural gem of unbelievable size and importance. The oldest parts of this organ date back to the Reformation. When Schnittke started work on the present 4-manual organ in 1689, he took 27 stops from the earlier instrument and added a further 33 ranks of his own to create a magnificent 60-stop organ. When it was completed 4 years later in 1693, the organ attracted a great deal of public attention and interest, not least because it had a 32-foot stop on the pedal, something almost unheard of at the time. Indeed, in 1720, J.S. Bach visited Hamburg and played several of the city's large instruments. He was interested in becoming the organist at St. Jacobi's, but, and this seems astonishing today, his application was unsuccessful. Johann Heitmann was appointed instead. after he had made a substantial donation to swell the church's coffers. We will never know if Bach really wanted the job at St. Jacobi's, but his famous son, C.P.E. Bach, reliably reported that towards the end of his life, his father regretted that he never had a large, beautiful organ he could call his own. During the 19th century, organs everywhere were adapted to the tastes of the time, and old and unfashionable stocks were replaced with new ones. Schnittke's instrument, however, remained unaltered. During the First World War, the facade pipes were commandeered by the army as the metal was required for military purposes. After the war, the restoration in the late 1920s never really compensated for the loss of the original pipework. Nevertheless, and no doubt influenced by the organ's most vociferous advocate, Hans-Henny Jahn, the Schnittke organ became the centerpiece of the organ reform movement. In fact, it became one of the prime sources of inspiration for the interpretation of early organ music. In 1942, at the height of the Second World War, the St. Jacobi Church Council decided to create a strong room under the bell tower. It was there that the church's works of art, including the organ pipes and the carved wooden figures of the organ case, were securely deposited. After the war, the organ was erected temporarily in this south aisle, before being returned to its rightful position in the organ gallery at the end of the 1950s. After further extensive and loving restoration work, in 1993, the organ was restored to its original magnificence and welcomed back to the world of music, to the same acclaim it had received 300 years earlier. Since 2016, the Lutheran Church of Schleswig-Holstein in northern Germany has hosted more than 500 events that have opened up the world of organ playing and organ building to over 14,000 young organ explorers. Due to the unique heritage of Schnittke organs in the region, this organ builder has been one of the focal points for the event organizers.
Ich habe jetzt die Orgeln von Schnittke besser kennengelernt, wie der auch so die so gestaltet.
Der hat halt ganz viele Orgeln gebaut und ist jetzt 300 Jahre tot.
Das war auch Abt Schnittskes erste Orgel.
Die sehen sehr alt aus und dann ist das so schön mit dem Gold gemacht.
Ich fand es eigentlich ganz spaßig und auch interessant, dass wir halt zum Abschluss dann nochmal mit der Orgel selbst musiziert haben. Wir haben gelernt, dass es verschiedene Flöten gibt, dass die vorderen Flöten einer Orgel einfach meist schöner sind.
Ich finde sie sehr schön, den Klang, weil auch wenn es schiefe Töne sind, es hört sich trotzdem gut an und auch der Hall in der Kirche, das gefällt mir sehr, sehr gut.
Also auf jeden Fall schöner als von einem Klavier und auch interessanter.
The 7th series of Organ Explorer events in Schleswig-Holstein will take place between the 2nd and 14th of October 2022. The Royal College of Organists sends its very best wishes.
The Royal College of Organists is delighted to announce that its next president from July will be David Hill. Not only is David a very talented organist, but also a choral conducting specialist. We see him in conversation with Morwenna Campbell-Smith, a well-known journalist with both the RCO and the Society of Women Organists.
David, welcome to the Organ Show. Now, you take up your post as president of the Royal College of Organists later this year, and I believe this is the first time that the Royal College of Organists has had a choral specialist as their president, though I know you began your career as an organist. So many organists get involved in conducting choirs, but I appreciate your comments on the training of choral conductors as opposed to organists. Are choral conductors and organists the same thing?
It's such an interesting question, Morwenna, and it's a great pleasure to be talking to you today. Well, here's the thing. I will say that choral singing and organ playing are so kind of linked. We know that. It's a fact. Yet they're inextricably linked, but funnily enough, they are completely different things that have to happen. And to that degree, I feel that we in this country, as good as we are in the choral field, need to be concentrating even more on how we develop the conducting skills, actually, of directors of music who go into our parish churches and so on, and even into cathedrals. And I would say that at the moment, a lot of what people feel they have to learn about choirs is kind of on the hoof, whilst they're doing it, and not even supervised in many cases. So there are so many things about this which I'm trying to think in my head, well, why did it work out for me? I took myself off for lessons, and I played for singing lessons. I went for some singing lessons myself. In other words, had all of that training going on in the background, as well as my organ playing and so on.
Yes. Now, I suppose I'm after a bit of advice as an organist who, like many parish organists, thrown into a small parish, so we can't have a director of music and a organist. It's me on my own, and I have a choir to conduct. So what would your top tips be?
I think if you're looking at having to drive it, as it were, Morwenna, is that right, from the organ much of the
Yes, time? Exactly. Yes.
That's a skill all of its own, I have to say. The first thing I would suggest is that the rehearsal process has to be really fun and very, very rigorous. That is to say that everyone feels safe in what they're doing because you know what it is they should be doing. Now, that means that, taking a rehearsal from a piano initially, whatever, securing all the notes and rhythms so that you can provide them with a sort of inner sense of pulse that they feel confident about. I would also say then the repertoire really needs to be such that A, the choir can manage it, B, that there's enough unaccompanied music for someone like yourself or whoever to feel they can gain confidence by going out and actually conducting it. So I just think it's really important that we also just know we measure the length. We don't actually try and do more than people can cope with, but it must be suitably challenging.
So David, you're joining the Royal College of Organists as a choral specialist. So what's your vision for your 2 years as president of the RCO? What would you like to see happen in that time?
Of course, the wonderful examinations continuing in the way they do, and that incredibly high standard of playing that the college expects for these exams. But I think there is an existing diploma in choral training, but I've got a feeling it's one of those secrets really that a lot of people don't know about, or need reminding about, or need reviewing, or it needs to be also embracing other institutions that could well be interested in how all of this could be put together. And I've already been having a few little sort of dialogues with various people about it. And there's a lot of excitement, I think, about the idea that we could actually start doing more intensive training for choral conductors. So I think the RCO can and should take absolutely central role in making this happen, so that now after my presidency, it goes on and develops even further. So let's get our organists, who are going to be directors of music of great churches and cathedrals, let's get them involved in being really good conductors.
Thank you, David. And we're looking forward to you being our president of the RCO. And thank you for joining us on The Organ Show.
Thank you, Morwenna.
Thank you, Morwenna and David. Well, the Royal College of Organists has been building creative partnerships with a wide range of organisations, the Royal School of Church Music, the Musicians' Union, the Society of Women Organists, to name but a few. One of our most special creative partnerships is with another royal organisation, the Royal Canadian College of Organists. So let us go now and meet Elizabeth Shannon, their Executive Director, and take a look at the organ world in Canada.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Shannon, and I'm the Executive Director at the Royal Canadian College of Organists. It is my privilege and great pleasure, on behalf of the College, to welcome you to International Organ Day 2022. We are delighted to be here with you and extend warm greetings to our hosts, the wonderful people at the Royal College of Organists. The Royal Canadian College of Organists is the national voice for the organ and its music in Canada. We support and promote the organ music community through learning opportunities, professional certification, communications, and advocacy. Everyone is welcome in our community, from beginner to professional organists, composers, educators, organ builders, and organ music fans. Our vision is inspiring connections with organ music. Those connections are made through programs like our Summer Organ Academy and through innovative projects like the Future Stops podcast and the Future Stops Festival, which explore the 21st century organ music experience. Here, for your viewing pleasure, is a small sample of our community at work and play, beginning, of course, with Canada's national pastime, the hockey game. Thank you again for joining International Organ Day 2022. I invite you all to join us next year in Toronto from July 2 to 6, 2023 for Organ Festival Canada, Building Bridges, Forming Friendships, presented in partnership with the Organ Historical Society and the Institute of American Organ Builders. Come prepared to be inspired. Until then, enjoy the rest of the organ show.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was fantastic and a great look at what's going on in Canada. It now gives me great pleasure to turn the spotlight onto my fellow presenter, Anna Hallett. Anna, why the organ?
Well, I was singing at St John's Choir and Devizes, which I still do, and my choir master approached me because I played the piano and invited me along to try the new organ at Eddington at a Pipes and Pizza event. And I was like, I want to learn, this is incredible. And it's pizza. Yeah. So I have learnt with him ever since until July last year when he left for Cambridge, and my new teacher is John Challenger at Salisbury.
And you've come up with this brilliant idea, the Organ Manual website. How did that come about?
Well, I found a report that said 4% of organists are under the age of 30, and I thought that was shocking. And so I decided to do some research of my own that eventually turned into a report. And from that, I thought what I had used, the sort of resources I'd found were everywhere, but there wasn't one singular place where they were. And I was like, that's what needs to happen. So that was the
case
base
of bringing all of that information to
the
same place. And is it well used?
There's about 1,000 hits a month, which might sound small, but to me, it's helping someone. So,
yeah, absolutely. And on this website, we have the Organ Manual online magazine. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Alex Trigg, who's the organ scholar at Cambridge, approached me and said a magazine would be great because instead of these monthly articles which were published on my website, it would happen, less regularly, but people would probably be more excited to get it. So we exchanged through emails and Messenger and sort of came up with an idea of what to do, and it's turned into a real magazine.
So how do you plan each edition? What goes into each edition?
So we just sort of decided in the beginning a set structure of about 6 different articles, such as a day in the life of someone. Mm-hmm. And from that, we'd approach people who we know, and then with the other articles to make about 10, we thought we'd think of new ideas like competitions and things like that weren't with that set structure. So we do that.
To a broader
to sort of make it for everyone.
Yeah, and you produced this magazine yourselves?
Yes, so we worked together. I produced it, so Alex sent me his articles, and my mum and dad helped me, obviously, with some of the technical features. So yeah.
And where do you hope to see this magazine in the future?
With university, it will get a bit stressful. I don't want it to just die out. So I'm hoping that someone or an organisation or something will take it on and continue it with the same passion that I have for it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And you're doing your A-levels at the moment. What subjects are you doing? I don't know how you're managing to fit all of this in, to be honest, but there we are.
Well, I'm doing geography, history, music, and an EBQ in history. So yeah.
And what's coming out after school?
Hopefully a degree in history and a choral scholarship would be great, so I can still do my normal sort of choir routine, but also keep the organ going.
Still church music, but not playing, but you'll keep playing alongside that.
Don't want to lose it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for talking to us, Anna. Andrew.
Anna Hallett, ladies and gentlemen, one to watch for the future. And thank you, Cheryl. Now, we've just heard that Carl Jackson has arrived at Freemasons Hall in Covent Garden. Let's go straight there now and see what he's up to.
Well, it's been a bit of the rush to get here from Knightsbridge to Freemasons Hall, situated in the Holborn area of central London. I've just walked up the stairs, just past the shrine there, for those who fell in the Great War. In fact, the entire building was constructed as a peace memorial for those who fell in the Great War. Walking through this wonderful vestibule, it opens out into this space here. As I approach the 2 enormous bronze doors to the Grand Temple, where I think I can hear Lucy has just started playing Entrada by Grayston Ives. Lucy, that was fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I believe that this is your first time to Freemasons Hall. What are your impressions on the building and the organ?
It's an amazing building. It's very, very ornate, very beautiful. And the organ's a very impressive instrument, very nice to play, lots of wonderful sounds, including the rather loud tuba as well.
What is it that brought you to the organ? How did you start?
So I started on playing the piano when I was about 5 or 6 or so, and then sang in my local parish church choir from about the age of 8, and saw the organ there, and then asked to have lessons when I was about 14. And my first lesson was actually on my 14th birthday as a present, so it was very, very nice. And then it went from there, really.
Excellent. And away from the organ console, what do you do?
So I'm a teacher day by day, and I also like running as well. So yeah, very busy with all that.
Super. Thank you so much indeed, Lucy.
Thank you.
And from Freemasons Hall, we move to Kampala, Uganda, where we hear about the pioneering work of Samuel Kimuli, a fellow of the college, with the Organ Academy.
Hello, viewers. My name is Samuel Kimuli, originally from Uganda, and I reside in Britain. I'm the founder of the Organ Academy in Uganda. My journey started as a treble chorister at Namrembe Cathedral, where I was, I developed a desire to learn the organ and the piano. Chances were very limited because you couldn't just come and play the piano there. So I devised a way as to how I could do this. And I remember we had a choir room and they had a piano. And the only way I could do this, in my mind, is to find a way, somehow to climb, through the window and then get access. But that was hard. So what now I did is I said, you know what, I'm going to help out, and everyone knew that I'm going to help out. Said, so what do you want to do, Sam? Say, okay, well, I want to do that. I want to be able to lock the windows. There was only 4 windows. I want to lock the windows, wooden windows. And after every practice, they praised me how good I was, how good a man and boy I was. Little did they know that, I'm going to do that. But actually, I left one window unlatched. So every time when we finished the rehearsal, everyone allegedly went home, but I didn't go home. I lingered around, and from there I climbed through the window and then I accessed the piano in the dark. And that went on for a little while, and then until my friends, obviously, realized that something's going on there, and then they got some big stones and threw it onto the window many times, and they scared me to death. But I thank God that from there to where I am now, it's an unbelievable level. And so I came here through a British Council scholarship, and I came to do piano, to study piano actually, not organ. And Guildhall, I studied piano, but also I noticed that there was an organ in one of the rooms, and I was allowed to take a second study on the organ, which I did. And the gentleman there, who was my tutor, entered me for the ARCO exams, which I passed first time. Now, ARCO is the associateship of the Royal College of Organists, so I passed it first time. And he was very, very impressed with me. So he gave me a chance to become an organ scholar at Chelmsford Cathedral, which I did. I went there and I was there for a year. And then from there, I came back to London and started at St. Giles International Organ School for my FRCO. I passed my FRCO and then continued it and literally topped it up with a BMass degree at Goldsmiths University. Now, from there, I thought, okay, so this is now achieved, but how about the people in Uganda? So I thought the organ is a good instrument, but it's always in the church. And so my research told me that it's going to be difficult, for Ugandans to come, to the level that many people are in art, in Europe. So I thought, okay, the reason for that is because the organs are always in the church. There's only one organ in Uganda in the church, the cathedral church, and that's the one I played on, which was donated a long time ago by a passerby from England. So I thought, you know what, let me just gather some instruments, and then later on, I'll make an organ. An organ school. So 2019, I went back there, and obviously I could see that it could work. The only bad things was lockdown, and things couldn't happen. So after lockdown, I again went back this year, found premises, but now I had got like six or seven organs, albeit secondhand, but they work. So I put a school together, and now a lot of children are coming, and they couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier either. So I found the Royal College for this opportunity for me to be here, and also for them to help us and support us in every way they have. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. And it goes on and on. The story is going to be amazing. Thank you for listening to me. yet again, Samuel Kimberley, the founder of the Organ Academy in Uganda.
And we're back here in the Grand Temple of Freemasons Hall in London, and with me at the organ console is Tak Ureta. Now, Tak, you're not a Freemason, so why are you seated at the organ?
Freemasons Hall kindly allow members of Royal College of Organists to use this organ to practice.
Was it an easy process to gain access to practice? How did you find out about the ability to practice here?
When I joined Royal College of Organists, when I was looking for the information on the website, I happened to find that there's a possibility that I can use this organ to practice. And I thought it was a great opportunity to do that with such a great organ.
Super. Now, away from the organ console, what is your job?
And I work in the City of London. I work for a Japanese bank.
Thank you. And what are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play Fantasia in G minor by Bach.
Thank you. And as Tak is playing Bach's G minor Fantasia, we've moved from the Grand Temple to the vestibule. And with me is Charles Grace, who masterminded the rebuilding of the organ in 2015, 2014?
It was indeed finished in 2015. And ever since then, we've had trouble trying to keep it in tune, because the temperature, when there's 1,700 people in this room, of course goes way up. And then it comes way down again when they all leave. And we have to find a median temperature, which within a couple of degrees, the organ can deal with. So to that end, we are putting sensors in the organ lofts and also out here in the vestibule in order to gather data on what the median temperature should be. So it is work in progress, and hopefully we'll sort it out with the help of these very helpful people in Freemasons Hall.
Excellent. Charles, thank you so much indeed.
Great pleasure.
And with that, we return to the Grand Temple with Tak's performance of the Fantasia. And under cover of VWV 542, another guest has appeared beside me. It's Catherine Nisbet. Catherine, welcome. What is your role here at Freemasons Hall?
I'm the events manager here at Freemasons Hall, which means that I oversee all of the events in the building, both the ones open to the public as well as the ones that the United Grand Lodge of England runs internally.
So how did you get involved?
I was brought in because there was a desire to open the building up more, to let the public in, to view the space, to hold concerts. The building is a stunning, magnificent Art Deco structure in Covent Garden, and really everybody deserves to be able to see it.
So you support the RCO then, do you?
Yes, we have a very good relationship with the RCO. You've already spoken to Charles Grace. When he was doing the restoration of the organ, he really wanted to make sure that it was played and appreciated following the restoration. And so he devised this relationship with the RCO, which includes enabling practicing. So RCO students are able to come in. Mr. Yorita, who you've heard, came in and rehearsed for one of his examinations here, and many other RCO students do. We also offer bursaries and scholarships. So we have a really wonderful relationship with the RCO.
So do you support other musical charities and projects as well as the RCO?
We do. Music is something very close to the members' hearts. Local, national, international, on every level. A significant one fairly recently was a £100,000 donation from the Masonic Charitable Foundation, the Freemasons charity, to the London Symphony Orchestra to enable them to develop a program to support disabled and special educational needs children and engage with them in music. Freemasons do a huge amount for charity. All over, £51 million was raised in 2020, and they also do a huge number of volunteer hours. It's something that's really at the core of Freemasonry.
Are you a Freemason yourself?
I am indeed, yes. A lowly fellow craft. I've done my second degree. I'm a member of the Order of Women Freemasons, and I think if COVID allows, I will hopefully do my third degree soon.
Catherine, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
And from the vestibule of Freemasons Hall, we return, or at least I'm going to scuttle back to St Paul's, Knightsbridge.
Well, Carl, thank you for that super report, and let's hope he gets back here in time for the curtain calls. Now, it's time for the all-important interview where Anna meets the composer, Thomas Hewitt-Jones. Anna.
I'm delighted to be joined by the eminent composer Thomas Hewitt-Jones, the composer of the Royal School of Church Music's specially commissioned anthem for Her Majesty the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in our service. So welcome to the show, Thomas. When did you first realise you wanted to become a composer?
Thanks, Anna. I've always known, to be honest with you, when I was a child, I just knew I wanted to compose, and I had music in the family, and I had two grandparents who were composers themselves, and I just knew very, very young. And I played the organ a lot and sang in choirs, and that was just wonderful, you know, and I think I just got the bug.
So with your grandparents, were they quite influential with your compositional journey?
They were actually the most influential part of my life, really. I mean, grandfather was a very serious church composer, post-Leighton kind of style, and my grandmother wrote beautiful educational melodic music. In some ways simpler, but she actually did very, very well commercially. So I sort of learned from these two different approaches, I think.
Yeah. So with those two approaches, did you sort of, even by learning with them, did you pick out a particular style that you were like, this is my style?
Well, I think it takes years as a composer to get there, and I think you have to write an awful lot to find what you really feel and what your style is. I'd say that by writing some media music as well, I've sort of learnt how to really take music apart in quite an academic way, actually. Surprisingly, you know, people look down on media music, but actually you have to be very technically advanced to really get a brief and really get it right.
So with this new commission, what thoughts went through your mind? What were the sort of the sort of musical styles that you were thinking of and the text and everything? What was that whole process about?
Well, it was such a wonderful challenge, and actually I went straight in on the whole diatonic harmony, brass fanfares idea, you know, with the royal sort of occasion that you might expect naturally. But I found this wonderful, I was looking for a text and couldn't quite find the right text, and I came across these speeches by the Queen, and one of the things she said was, "Grief is the price we pay for love," and that really hit me. So I decided to use diatonic harmony and then really sort of ring it out at that moment, and that became the end of the last verse. And I think I built the whole piece around this, kind of, you know, really using harmony in a very sort of direct way to not manipulate, but, you know, take us on this journey through the text and really bring things out where necessary. So it's been a real thrill to work on this.
Wow, well, thank you so much for your time. So on International Organ Day, which is St. George's Day and William Shakespeare's birthday, we'll hear a sneak preview of In Our Service, sung by the choir of St. Stephen's Dulwich, with the director of the Royal School of Church Music, Hugh Morris, as the organist, and Oliver Lallemont as the conductor.
That was In Our Service. Isn't that a magnificent anthem which works in a variety of formats? Make sure you go to the RSCM's website and register your choir's performance. The Royal College of Organists is a charity, the first stop for every organist, and it relies on subscriptions, donations and legacies to continue its work with organists at every age and stage. Professor Christopher Wood is chairman of the RCO's foundation, and earlier today he spoke to Andrew about his work.
It now gives me the greatest possible pleasure to welcome Professor Christopher Wood, a former chairman of the Royal College of Organists and now the chairman of the Royal College of Organists Foundation. Chris, welcome. It's always amused me that your career has been in medicine, where you've been enormously successful, and yet your passion is music. Tell me about your early life in music.
Well, I'm Welsh, so it's baked into my DNA. And we as a family probably sang more than we spoke. We were singing all the time in groups, solos, choirs. Mum was in the chorus of the Welsh National Opera. So music was there all the time. So my early life, I remember singing, perhaps more than speaking.
And what about the organ? How did you get involved in that?
The organ was by accident. I was asked to play for a wedding. I'd never played the organ before. I could play the piano. And so I come to this instrument, having never played it before. There were 3 keyboards rather than 1, and pedals and all sorts of funny stops. And that's the beginning of a story of a very unfortunate wedding ceremony.
I could say, aren't they all, but I won't go that way.
But I fell in love with the organ.
Well,
because just the versatility of it, the magnificence of it, the sound it could make, and it was just glorious. So I just fell in love with the instrument.
A wedding with a happy ending for you,
Indeed,
if nobody
yeah.
else. Fantastic. Yeah. Now tell me, what's the purpose of the foundation, and what can the foundation do that the RCO itself can't do?
The foundation was set up to promote and support the work of the RCO. The RCO is growing, and whenever anything is growing, it needs growing support. And that's both financial support, it needs structural support, and the foundation was designed to do that. And we do it, in my mind, we do it in several ways. Firstly, there's financial support. Whereas the RCO has got the exams and all the academic structure of it, the foundation can focus on raising more funds to support the work and to expand the work of the RCO. So that's one factor. The second thing is to grow the membership and to have a broader and a wider outreach for the RCO. So reaching out internationally for the RCO. So we bring what the RCO has, all that skill and the history, we bring it to a wider world. That's what I think one of the main functions of the RCO. Now the RCO, the trustees and the management can do that. The foundation can do it, but we can focus on it and leaving the RCO to do some of the other things that they need to do.
It's fascinating. Now, the foundation's only really been up and running a couple of years now. And as we all know, those have been the pandemic years. So what has been achieved so far?
Well, we've adapted during COVID, like many other people. But there's been a lot that's achieved. We've raised money for the RCO. The Garfield Weston Foundation has been very generous. We've got other funds in. So we've raised money to support the growth of the RCO, institutional accreditation, affiliated students, and we've started the Friends of the RCO. Now, I think that's something that is of considerable importance for the organ world. You know as well as I do that there are many, many people out there, a bit like me, love the organ, don't play it very well necessarily, but love the organ, love organ music, or they're friends and relatives of people who play the organ, and they would love to be a part of the RCO and to be able to support the work and to take the work forward. The Friends of the RCO provides that opportunity for them. So things like that are where we are building and supporting and promoting the RCO.
You've done a lot in a short time. What's the next objective?
We have to build out more with the Friends. We've had a small beginning. It's growing and it's getting there. But we've got at least 8,000 people we've estimated that we need to reach. That's a big target. So there's that. We also want to put organs into secondary schools in this country. We've again started with that. But that's a long-term project that has to grow, and that's one of my passions. I want to see that happen.
Well, very good. And if you had one word of advice for anybody who's considering taking up the organ, what would that word be?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, there we are. One word it was indeed. Professor Christopher Wood, a medical man and a musician. Perhaps he should be known as an expert in all organs. And now for something completely different. We started the programme with a visit to Germany. We're now going to take you on a visit to combine something both German and American.
Who would have thought that a small town in Germany, some 40 miles west of Frankfurt, would house one of only 2 existing E.M. Skinner organs in Europe? Since 2013, the Lutheran Church of Ingelheim, known as the Saalkirche, is the proud home of a large 4-manual instrument originally built by Skinner in 1930 for the First Presbyterian Church in Passaic, New Jersey. Carsten Lenz, the cantor and organist of the Saalkirche, has been passionate about American organ music and the enchanting sound world of E.M. Skinner's organs for many years. Together with his wife and fellow organist Iris, he has created a series of special concert formats intended to make the organ accessible and appealing to a wide range of people of all ages.
The idea is to have a very big variety of programs, but we try not to be too academic. We want to get new people listening to organ music. For the concerts, the movable console is very helpful. We always put this in the middle of the room so that the audience can watch the organists. We use also a big screen so they can see also hands and feet while playing. We always try to do some special events and combine organ music, for example, with wine or chocolate. During an organ wine concert, a local winery serves 6 wines, and the taste of the wines should match the character of the organ music. And the audience tries each wine during they listen to the music.
Carsten and Iris Lenz are particularly keen on awakening an interest in organ music among young people.
Sometimes we have some special organists, for example Lucy or Martin Luther, who also play the organ. In the description of the puppets, we read that they can play the piano. So we use this skill at the organ.
Playing together as an organ duo, Carsten and Iris Lenz also enjoy performing their own works, such as their variations on the theme of Frère Jacques, played with just the feet.
And now we come to the grand finale. Let's visit our friends at the American Guild of Organists. Their next national convention will be held in July in Seattle. Let's visit them now.
Hello, I'm James Thomashower, Executive Director of the AGO, the American Guild of Organists, the world's largest membership organization serving the organ and choral community. On behalf of AGO President Michael Bedford, the AGO National Council, and all the members of the AGO headquarters staff, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the RCO's International Organ Day 2022 and bring my greetings on behalf of our organization to yours. The RCO is like an older brother to the AGO. Founded in London in 1864, the RCO has been supporting organists for 32 years more than the AGO, which was founded in New York in 1896. And like any young sibling, we've been trying to play catch-up and demonstrate our worthiness ever since. I am happy to report that all is well in the family. Leaders of the AGO and the RCO get together very regularly by Zoom for cordial conversations. We have entered into mutually supportive agreements so that we can each access the other organization's programs and services at discounted prices. And we are learning from each other how we can both be better at supporting our respective members and meeting their educational needs. Today, I'm speaking to you from beautiful St. Philip's Church in the Highlands, a small Episcopal church located in the hamlet of Garrison, New York, about 45 miles north of Times Square. Later this summer, from July 3 to 7, over the 4th of July, our uniquely American holiday that we refer to as Independence Day, the Seattle chapter of the AGO will be hosting our national convention, the world's largest gathering of organists. We expect attendance to reach close to 1,000 people, including organists, scholars, academicians, composers, organ builders, and many others who provide programs and services to the profession. I invite you to attend our national convention. You can see the full schedule and register to attend in person by going online to the AGO Seattle's convention website, agoseattle2022.com. That's agoseattle2022.com. You'll hear splendid performances on 22 different organs, including world premieres of new organ and choral music that were specifically commissioned for this convention in Seattle. I hope to be able to welcome you to Seattle in person this summer. And now, for your listening pleasure, please enjoy a few musical snippets from the instruments that you will be hearing this summer. Thank you.
This is John Dixon, currently Treasurer of the American Guild of Organists, sending very best wishes to the Royal College of Organists for your International Organ Day on April the 23rd. I'm sending this message from Norfolk, Virginia on the mid-Atlantic coast, even though I grew up about 50 miles from Norfolk, England, which is about 4,000 miles in that direction. I think I'm involved in discussions between the AGO and the RCO because of this dual nationality, perhaps in case there are some arcane cricket analogies that I need to explain to my colleagues over here. But nonetheless, I can tell you it's been very exciting to be involved in discussions under the leadership of Sir Andrew Parmley in the UK and our Executive Director, James Tomashire, over here. I think we're going to see in the months and years to come some very exciting initiatives, cooperation and collaborations between our respective organisations. So until we see the fruits of those conversations, let me repeat my best wishes for a stunningly successful 3rd International Organ Day, and perhaps we'll see some of you in Seattle in July for our AGO National Convention. So let me close with a phrase that I have learned to say after living many years in America. Have a nice day.
Well, well, Carl has indeed scuttled back from his adventure in Covent Garden just in time for me to say, well, that's about it for this year, folks.
But before we go, we just need to say a huge thank you to our host, Father Alan Gile, for letting us use this beautiful church again. Father Alan.
I've always been a great believer in learning prayers by rote. And one prayer that I've found that I've said almost all my life, I think originally comes from the BBC prayer book New Every Morning, and I don't know who wrote it, but it goes something like this. Almighty God, we thank you for the gift of music, for the inspiration given to those who compose it, for the skill and devotion of those who perform it, for the faculties and powers that enable us to enjoy it. And we pray that as by this gift our lives are enriched and renewed, so we may offer ourselves more fully in your service. In an age in which we so readily become an audience watching music being made, it's a great prayer because it reminds us that the real mystery of music is that it draws us in. And as we participate in it, whether as performers or just people listening to it, we are transformed. And we need to be transformed much more than we need to be entertained. That's why I think music is such an important part of our life here, why we should all be champions of music in church, but not just in church, music in life, because we need transformation. And that's why this partnership is such an important one, why I'm so glad you've been able to join us here again this year, and we hope to see you very soon.
It is always a pleasure to visit St Paul's Knightsbridge. Thank you, Father Alan.
Yes, indeed. And many of you have been extremely busy today organising many events. In fact, I've got quite a few emails. I'm just going to read a few of them. Gary in Leighton Buzzard has organised a grand charity concert. Well done, Gary. There's lots going on at All Saints Gosforth. Michael Nicholas, known to many as the organist emeritus of Norwich Cathedral, Michael has given 8 recitals, 20 minutes each, for a range of charities, including the Royal College of Organists. Thank you so much, Michael. Richard McVeigh has organised a worldwide online recital. I wonder how many people took part in that. And so much has been going on around the planet today. Thank you all so much for your support.
Since I've made the effort to come all this way, I insist on having the last word.
If you must.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the Organ Show. Please make a note in your diaries to join us again next year on Saturday, the 22nd of April 2023, when we shall once again say,
Tune in and be inspired. Bye-bye.
Bye.